Beverly, how you doing?
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. I'm Anthony Marsh, the Deputy Chief of Operations Support for the Durham Police Department. This morning, the Chief of Police will be providing information in reference to a recently completed internal investigation. Upon completion of the Chief's briefing, we will entertain a few questions in reference to the information provided. This will be the only topic for discussion in this morning's briefing. Prior to asking your question, we respectfully ask that you please raise your hand so that we can provide you with a microphone so that everyone can hear you. With that being said, I'll turn it over to Chief Jose Lopez Sr.
Probando, can you hear? Everybody audio okay? Okay. That's Jose, J-O-S-E, Lopez, L-O-P-E-Z, Senior Chief of Police, City of Durham. It was brought to my attention by employees within the Durham Police Department that some of my staff were dismantling firearms pursuant to a court order for destruction and then retaining some of the parts for the firearms for both professional and personal use. Once made aware of this situation, the practice was immediately stopped and all parts were ordered returned and destroyed pursuant to the court order. In addition, an administrative investigation was initiated and disciplinary action has been taken. Prior to a recent statutory change, unclaimed firearms that were no longer useful or necessary as evidence were typically destroyed as ordered by a judge. Our agency, accompanied by the Sheriff's Office, would then transport the weapons to a facility where they were dismantled and destroyed. Apparently, some employees were incorrectly presuming that since the weapons were to be destroyed anyway, and that the court orders have allowed for departmental use of weapons and weapon parts in the past, that they could retain some of the parts for repair or replacement of parts on their personal and/or departmental issued firearms. It should be noted that never was an entire firearm attempted to be retained by personnel. While the officers had a genuine belief that their actions were appropriate, that belief was mistaken, and I expect better judgment from my officers, especially those in supervisory positions. Therefore, those found to have violated departmental policies and procedures have been disciplined and based on their degree of involvement and also the level of their authority. All involved are otherwise excellent veteran officers and staff with no history of significant disciplinary issues. I expect this lack of judgment to be isolated. I'd like to reiterate that this investigation was initiated internally and that there is no evidence that any guns or gun parts were sold. Any questions?
How many officers are we talking?
We're talking 11 employees and about, I want to say, 7 officers.
And what were their ranks? Are we talking?
The ranks were from non-sworn to sergeant, officer, and captain.
Thank you. Good morning, Chief. Tamara Gibbs with ABC 11. 2 questions here. Can you clarify what is the department's policy again, just to make that very clear what was supposed to happen with those weapons? And number 2, I'm assuming this is not a criminal matter, but is it an ethical problem?
Well, the issue here arises from the fact that they believed that they were adhering to a court order, and a subsequent check of that revealed that they were not at this point in time. They had strayed from the court order and also strayed from what was traditionally done. As far as being ethical, any time that you violate any policy, either from the police department or your own place of work, I think that's an ethical matter at that point in time. But, of course, once it was discovered, the organization initiated an investigation and put out the discipline that it needed to do and made sure that we were adhering by that court order.
You mentioned that those involved were disciplined. Could you say what the nature of the discipline was?
Nature of the discipline ranges from reprimands depending on the level of their involvement to suspensions, reference to their authority at the time that they had.
Real quick, what was the time frame? When was all this happening?
I don't have the dates here. It was about a year ago. We're talking about a total of 2 days of working on the weapons.
You said the investigation itself was about a year ago, or this practice has been going on for about a year?
Well, this practice went on this year because in the past they were allowed to, they had in the court order been allowed to remove parts.
Oh, okay.
So, and that is basically what I'm saying is that we came to find out that there was no court order that allowed them to do it this time, not unlike past practices where they have been allowed to.
So did the officers know beforehand that this court order was not allowing them to do it? Like, was it ever made clear to them?
That's part of the problem. Part of the problem was that they didn't make sure that the court order was telling them that they couldn't do it. They were going with the presumption that it was the same court order that we've always had for all these years. And once it came to our attention that it was not, then we initiated an investigation. They, of course, were extremely forthcoming as far as their involvements, and also were very quick to bring back parts that had been removed.
And are any of the suspensions or any of the people that were suspended still suspended right now, or have all of those suspensions been lifted?
I wouldn't be able to tell you when they were taking their suspension. It all depends on a lot of procedural parts, depending on documents that have to be given to them, hearings, things of that nature.
Chief Steve Sprazier from WNCN-TV. What procedures have changed right now to ensure that something like this does not happen again?
Well, like I said, that the laws have changed. Right now, we can't destroy firearms. Firearms have to be, they have to be sold. So we wouldn't be able to, at this present time, be able to destroy them.
What have you done in the department to make sure that things like this don't happen
Well,
again? To make sure that slips like this don't happen again? What have you done in the
That's
department?
part of the discipline. We reviewed the policies. The policies are in place are pretty good. If they had reviewed the policies and if they had looked at the court order, then they wouldn't have been in the situation they were in. Quite clearly, part of the discipline is for violating that knowledge of the policies.
To be snide, Chief, but 11 employees and 7 officers, it almost sounds like a feeding frenzy.
That was the amount of individuals that would be needed to dismantle the large quantity of firearms that were that needed to be dismantled. And these individuals are armorers, and they're people who have an expertise in dismantling weapons safely. So it wasn't like someone, just a group, decided to ascend into these. These are individuals who work on firearms.
Give us an estimation of how many firearms are taken in by the department every year to be destroyed?
We could provide you, I don't have that number right off the bat. We could provide you with that number. But also you have to understand that many of the firearms were being held. We don't just go every month and destroy firearms.
So it was the officer's responsibility to look at the court order and know what was in it, whether they could take the parts or not. I just want to be clear on that.
There were individuals who were working within that group who had a responsibility to know what the policies were, had a responsibility to know what the court order said, and that's what we addressed, and that's what the investigation disclosed. But I have to, of course, state that this investigation was initiated by the Durham Police Department, and that there were no guns or parts that were stolen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our press conference. Thank you all for your patience and cooperation.
Thank you.